we say to the client from day one, what you want is not necessarily what I'm going to pursue. Because what I want is for your children, as quickly as possible, to be able to return back to their childhood without the battle that's going on around them, where mum and dad are hurling things at each other.
Hi, my name is Lawrence Joss, and welcome to the Family Disappeared podcast. And today we have a great guest on the show. His name is Daniel Ryan. He's an attorney out of the UK, and we're going to talk about the family court system in the UK, the United States, what the differences are, what's going on over there. And he shares some really invaluable insight about his practice, what it looks like, how he works with parents, and also the reality of some of the stuff he needs to communicate as an attorney and how he does that. And we also talk about how dysfunctional the family system is and what some problems are in the court system and how they're resolving them somewhat, or at least trying to imagine a path forward in the UK. And part of the conversation talks about how the word parental alienation is actually getting brought into the court system and what that looks like right now. And super recent, I think at the end of 2025, that this actually came into be. So with that said, welcome to the podcast. If you're new to the community, welcome. We have over 100 podcasts in the can, so there's all kinds of topics. This one happens to be talking with a lawyer, but there's psychologists, there's panels of parents, there's all other kinds of stuff. So check out the old podcasts. We also have some great resources in the show notes, and Daniel's information will be in there too. If there's anything of interest you want to check out about Daniel or his practice. And we would always love to hear what you think about the show. familydisappeared@gmail.com. Shoot me an email. Love to hear what you think. We have a free 12-step program, Parental Alienation Anonymous. Check that out in the show notes too. A beautiful, wonderful community. It's recovery-based, and it's about working on ourselves and changing our lives. And it's one path forward. And I always say, do the work now, even if you're in the beginning stages, even if you're just kind of thinking maybe there's some dynamics in your family, do the work on yourself. You can shift any relationship by doing this, at least the relationship with yourself. And we're also a 501c3 nonprofit. Love to have some donations to help us bring more free resources to folks. Please like, share, comment, want to hear what you think about stuff, ask questions, follow up stuff, anything that we can share with the community or just to be of service to you. And with that, let's jump into the podcast. So it's funny, each time I interview someone that's an attorney or someone that's involved with the legal system, I remember how tumultuous it was when my ex served me with divorce papers and wanted full custody of the kids, and I had to go see the attorney and stuff like that, and how anxiety provoking it was and confusing it was and litigious it was. As Daniel and I discuss in the upcoming episode, it's a setup for fighting. People are going there to get a pound of flesh. It's a setup for failure, and in doing that, the kids suffer, and my kids suffered, and I didn't really know at the time. I didn't have access to podcasts or a lot of information when this all started. But I remember going to that first court thing and knowing that my ex was asking all these crazy things. And I just started going to 12-step meetings. And I remember taking the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with me to this mediation or conversation with the other attorney or whatever it was. It's really funny. I didn't have anything to lean on, so I leaned on the community that I barely knew, that I was just becoming part of. And it wasn't directly related to parental alienation, estrangement, or erasure, but I had a community that was supporting me, and I didn't have any other tools. There was no other way for me to get through that particular moment in time. So if you're struggling and you're new to this and you feel under-resourced, resource yourself when you're going into those first meetings and those first hearings. Find community, find resources, and find people that aren't necessarily in the middle of the fray or wanting to fight too. We need grounded folks in our lives too that aren't so raw, don't have so much invested in the fray. At least that's what I found for myself, and I hope that's useful. And we are going to now hear what Daniel has to say, and I hope you enjoy the show. Daniel, it's great to have you on the show today, and I know it took a couple of bumps and bruises for us to actually get to this moment in time, so I appreciate your patience. And if you can take a moment just to introduce yourself to the community and let us know a little bit about you, where you are, what you do, I would love that.
Okay, yes. Hi, thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be here. I'm in the United Kingdom, somewhere on the other side of the world from where you are. I'm in the family law business in the United Kingdom. I've been in family law for nearly 20 years. own and run a legal practice here in the UK, and we look after parents who are trying to get through the family law court system. That's not an easy ride for anybody, but that's essentially what we do, and we try and do that with an overriding sense of care and an overriding responsibility for the children. That's what we try and do over here.
That sounds wonderful. And I love that you bring in like the responsibility for the children and kind of centering the children, which seems like it's imperative anywhere in the world. I'm curious, as far as the court system goes in the UK, what do most people wrongly expect from the family court system the first time they walk in? Like, what's that expectation that people have with no experience walking into the court system?
I think what they expect is the answer. I think they expect to walk in and there's some fairy godmother, in the form of a judge who's sat at the top of the room, and then a magic wand is waved and suddenly everything is okay. And it just doesn't work that way. Family court comes as a real shock to people when they realize that they are about to go on a pretty arduous and pretty emotional journey, not helped by the family court itself and the various issues that it's got in this country. But yeah, so I think they come in hoping to find some sort of nirvana, and they do not.
And like them coming into the family court system, they're looking for the judge to make a quick decision, give them some information, give them some kind of relief. And what they really get is they get stuck within a system that moves really slowly. Is that your same experience in the UK as it is in the United States?
Very much so. The family court system in the UK is so congested that we can have family matters, child matters in this country can run for years in the family court system. And it's not because they're particularly combative. It's not because they're particularly horrible sets of circumstances. It's because there are months and months and months in between hearings just because of the amount of people who are using the court system.
That's fascinating. And I have this conversation with so many people in different countries. And fundamentally, I thought it was the United States family court system that was broken and grinding to a halt. But from what I'm hearing, it's the same in the UK and in so many other countries. They're just not equipped to handle the amount of people that are coming through.
They're just not. They're absolutely not. There's not enough anything. There's not enough courtrooms. There's not enough court time. There's not enough judges. There's just not enough, full stop, to deal with the caseloads. And unfortunately, people, and I think this is probably a society problem here in the UK, and I'm sure it echoes around the world, but people have stopped being reasonable. They've stopped having the ability to be able to talk to each other and try and resolve matters amicably. Their first recourse is, I'm going to take you to court.
That's fascinating. Like when I think about the UK, I don't think about it as litigious as we are, but the sounds of it is incredibly litigious over there as well.
We are, I lived in the US many years ago and, I found it incredibly litigious, but we are catching up. We're catching up very quickly in this country. Well, now we'll just take it into court. As I say, we've lost the ability to be reasonable with each other and we just want to beat each other up in court now. And we believe that, that's the place to go.
Yeah, no, it's a super sad state of affairs everywhere in the world. And in your opinion, even though it's grinding really, really slowly, is the court system in the UK fundamentally broken, or the fundamentals in place to move people through the system in a useful way, and they just don't have the resources to get them there, or is it just broken, period?
As I say, in the years that I've been doing this, my view is that the court system is broken because aside from its infrastructure issues, aside from the fact there aren't enough judges, there aren't enough courtrooms, there isn't enough time, apart from all of that, if you put that to one side, you would kind of hope that the decisions that are coming out are great decisions, and they're not. The decisions are poorly focused often. The decisions often are incredibly one-sided. The decisions are hideously biased at times. There is just a fundamental flaw in the system. As I say, and people who are going in hoping that they're going to get a wonderful answer are often coming out more aggrieved than when they went in.
Wow. Yeah, no, we're seeing the same stuff here. It's just devastating, and so many people's lives are just getting ripped apart. No one's getting any kind of closure. And ultimately, the kids are the ones that are suffering. So I like when you introduced yourself that it's super child-centric. And when you're dealing with folks going through this, what is your way of centering the child's needs? Are there any strategies or something that you find really useful?
We're just incredibly blunt with our clients. And I've always been this way. This is an ethos that we've carried in all the time that I've been doing this. But we say to the client from day one, what you want is not necessarily what I'm going to pursue, because what I want is for your children as quickly as possible to be able to return back to their childhood without the battle that's going on around them where mum and dad are hurling things at each other. So we're very direct with our clients and we say, look, our first interest is to pursue the returning of a childhood to the child. And we trust you that you come along for the journey with us, and we trust that we don't fall out along the way. But that will always be our priority. We've stuck to that, as I say, for all the years we've been doing this, and my team are aware that that's important to me. And my clients are aware of that's important to me. And, that's not everybody's choice. Some people choose to say, well, no, frankly, I want an attorney who's just going to go and attack the other side. And I say, well, if that's what you're looking for, that's not here. But you won't find that here.
I love that approach. And I'm curious, when you are really blunt and saying this is what we're going to do, and it's not necessarily what you want, are most people like able and receptive to hear that, or a majority of people not so much?
I mean, we get all sorts of people walk through our door. So some people are almost quite relieved by that, the fact that somebody is taking the weight and saying, look, listen, it's about the children. Let's just focus on the children. Other people are a bit resistant at first. And as I say, they either go off and find somebody else to fight for them, and that's fine. That's their choice. Or, they spend a bit of time with us, a lot of time talking to me. And then they realize that, well, actually, yeah, I kind of get it. And all right, everybody wants to score some points along the way. Dad wants to score points off mum, and mum wants to score points off dad, and that's fine. But let's not score points off the children.
I love that. And in your practice, are your clients traditionally the folks that don't necessarily have access to the kids, or sometimes are your clients the people that have the primary access? Is it a mix?
It's a mix. Yeah, it's a mix. We look after mums, we look after dads, we look after clients who have the children. They're the primary carer. We're trying to sort of safeguard that up to a point, but also get the other party reintroduced if it's safe to do so. Unfortunately, some cases are pretty ugly, and there are issues around the other parent. We have a real mix in terms of people, in terms of mums, in terms of dads, in terms of faith. All of life walks through our door.
And do you have any other options once you engage a client besides the family court system there that you can help them move through some kind of resolution or some other pathways specifically in the UK that we might not have access to out here?
Honestly, I don't know whether we do in the US now, but over here in the UK, we are big fans of mediation. So the court is quite keen for people to say, look, have you tried professional mediation? So have you tried sitting down with an independent human being who is going to listen to the argument from both sides and try and find some middle ground? Now, I have access to a mediation company. I have a partnership with a mediation company in order that we can do that. So sometimes I will sit with clients who've come through the door ready and armed, ready to go to court, and we steer them away from that and say, well, no, let's not do that. Let's try this. Let's talk mediation first. So that's a route that we have in the UK. The court is quite keen to promote. It doesn't always work because people are quite entrenched in their position, but it's something that we try. And over and above that, we also, just within this practice, we have access to, social workers and child therapists in order that we can try and focus on the mental health of the children.
It sounds like you have a lot of different options, and it's also holistically based that you can pull in different professionals that you don't necessarily have the skill set that can help move the process through in a more child-centric manner.
That's true. It's a deliberate thing, and we keep adding bits on as we keep thinking about, well, maybe we should have this, inside this circus that I run. And so, yeah, we do keep adding bits on. We say, well, maybe we should have that because that would be good to be able to work with the children. Maybe we should have that because that would be good to work with the parents. So, yeah, we keep looking for the holistic approach if we possibly can.
Okay. And here's a little bit of a different question. As with all these different people that are coming in, have you ever advised someone not to pursue the process, the court system, custody, or something like that, because it's going to create some unnecessary harm or emotional turmoil that's not manageable?
Yes, there have been, over the years, I would say we've had hundreds of people come through our door. So over the years, there are clients that I have advised, let's not do family court. We don't need to. We can deal with this without family court. And then there have been other clients who've come through my door, and this is sad, but we live in a reality where their circumstances, often perhaps where they've been not ideal as parents, and I'll use that phrase, where I've sat with them and said, look, in my view, it's not in the best interest of the children for me to pursue them, but with you by my side, in the family court. I don't think that's fair. I think they've been through enough. I think they've been through, some pretty unpleasant times as a result of you and the other party, the other parent, and maybe we should just let it go and just let them get on with their lives. And that's a tough decision to make. It's a conversation that I've had on a number of occasions.
Is there ever a time, like, I don't know if you age out of the court system in the UK, like 18 here, kids are adults and they don't really have any recourse in the court system.
It's
Is there a time where
16 in
like
the UK, 16.
16 in the UK? Wow. That's interesting. And like if someone's coming and the kids are like 14, 14 and a half, and it's going to be a year and a half process, do you say, hey, wow, this doesn't make any sense. This is what's going to happen over the course of the period. And I wouldn't spend the time and money doing this right now.
Exactly. If people come in through my door where the children are sort of really 13 onwards, I'm starting to sort of stick a flag up and say, look, we're possibly in trouble here. We're possibly too late here, because by the time we get through the process, the children are going to be so old that the court's not going to rule an order for them. Or worse still, you're going to walk into the court on day one and the court's going to say, well, given that we know how long this takes, we're not interested in this case.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And with your experience with the different parents that have come in through the course of the years, like what emotional blind spots do you see these parents having from your experience that you need to kind of like maybe educate them or resource them a little bit on?
I think the single biggest issue that parents have when the relationship breaks down is they forget their children. They forget their actions, whatever they're going to do, invariably to each other over the course of the next year or 2 years is going to impact on their children. And they're so absorbed in the battle, and they're so absorbed in looking to win and score points and gain, that they forget that there are children in the middle of this who are not sure what's going on. All they can see is that two people who used to be in their family are now going at each other hammer and tongue. And that is a real issue. So that's the thing that I think overridingly people come into me with this. I just need to fight, and I've lost all sight of reality, and I've lost all sight of being reasonable, and I forgot the fact that my children are going to get impacted by this, because I just want to kind of put them onto the sidelines while we run this play. And I want this play to be confrontational, and I want it to be aggressive, and I need to win.
That's interesting and super insightful. I love how simple you pare it down to that they forget. You know what I mean? Because I know that I do that in my life over and over again, that I forget what's actually happening because I'm trying to get somewhere, get something, extract something. And just the basic idea, like forgetting the kids are just trying not to die. They just want to feel safe. They just want to get back to some form of normalcy. I can see, affecting most of us. That makes a lot of sense. And I know the court systems here are super monetized. Like there's a lot of money going in a lot of different directions, and they can not necessarily get into the kids to help support the kids. Do you find the court system there is also kind of like drudged down by money and all these different parties that are getting paid in different directions, and that's part of the thing that's really slowing the mechanism down, is the capitalism of the event?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Lawrence. That's incredibly insightful because, again, a comment I've made many times over the years is that the court system is a commercial environment first and a justice environment second. Everybody's making money, and I include myself, in that mix. Everybody's making money in the family court. If you're a mediator, you're making money. If you're an attorney, you're making money. If you're a judge, you're making money. Everybody's making money. The only people who aren't are the two parents, because all they're doing is losing money. But there is undoubtedly an argument that says that court proceedings are protracted deliberately, in my view, on some occasions, in order that the money can keep flowing. And there are undoubtedly attorneys out there, lawyers out there, solicitors out there, as we refer to them here in the UK, who would prefer to drag the matter out because it continues to add to the fee pile.
Yeah, and there's just no real way to streamline it and get away from the money because it is a government organization. And you said, what did you say? It's something first and something second?
It's a commercial setting first. So it's about the money first, and it's a justice setting second. That is my view, that, it's about, there's money in this because you go to court, it costs you money to go to court, it costs you money for your attorney, it costs you money to pay the fees for the court to even accept your case. It costs money. Then the court says, we're going to call in psychological evaluation for argument's sake. We want you to go and find a psychologist and do an evaluation on you and the children. That costs money. The court says, we want to get a disclosure from the police because you've both been involved with the police and we want to know what the police have got on their computer system about you. That costs money because the police in the UK charge money to release files about people. It's money, it's money, it's money, it's money.
Wow, that's interesting about the police charging to release information. That seems
Yeah,
so.
and a lot of money to release information about people.
That's insane. In your view, like this idea of reversing the paradigm and it's justice first, are there things that you've seen working or ideas that you have that would actually have justice first? Is that even possible in this time and age that we live?
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I'll make it as grand as that. But as a world, we are driven entirely by the dollar or the pound or the yen or whatever it might be. We are driven entirely by it. And every element of our society, certainly here in the UK, every element of our society has a price on it. And it has a price to participate. You even have to pay in order to try and find what fair looks like. Obviously, when you're in the court system, over here, we have where a parent is regarded to possibly have some safeguarding issues, and so they need to see their children in a controlled environment for a while. We refer to those as contact centres here in the UK. Those contact centres charge a fee. So I've now got a situation where I've got a mum or a dad who I'm saying to them, well, you get to go and see your child every 2 weeks for 2 hours, but it's going to cost you this much money.
Yes, that's insane. We have those here too, and it's dehumanizing, it's humiliating, and it's challenging, and it's expensive. And folks without resources don't even have access to even have any kind of contact because it's set up that way. It's a super crappy system. It sounds like there too. And with staying with money, do you see a lot of parents weaponizing money, weaponizing having resources to money within the judicial system, with not giving up the kids because they have more money, with not showing up, with manipulating the time of the court and stuff just based on how many resources they have?
Absolutely. He who has the most money can afford the best legal representation and he will win the day. That is the simplicity of the system over here. He who has the most money will win the day. And he who has the most money will control the proceedings as to what happens, how to speed them up, how to slow them down. All that will happen with he who's got the most money.
And that's based on being able to pay the most high-powered attorney or the attorney with the most different resources and stuff to, like you say, control the environment, control the flow of paperwork, control everything is just based on access to resources.
Exactly. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I see that getting weaponized all the time and people just struggling and just working a job just to pay to show up to see the kids for an hour or two. And it's demoralizing and it's not sustainable. So when you have parents that don't have as much resources that other parents have that you're resourcing, do you see these people burn out on the financial side and actually move away from the whole court just because they can't continue to afford the process that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's two answers to that. There's sort of a very general one, there's one specific to us. The general answer is yes, absolutely. There are parties who run out of money and they can't afford to be in this fight anymore because they can't afford the contact centre and they can't afford the legal representation. And so they try and carry on their own because in this country you're allowed to represent yourself in court, but that's never going to go well because you're always up against people, obviously, who are familiar, who are legally trained, etc., etc. So they either run out of money and drop out of the game because they realize they're never going to win. We have a slightly different, perhaps a more positive situation because with our clients, we do have a mechanism whereby if we've taken a client on and we're working with them and they start to run out of money, I have a commitment, a personal commitment to those clients that I won't allow them to drop out of the system simply because they don't have the funds to stay in the game. So we will continue for them and we will pick up those costs. And that's something that we'll do because I can't deal with the thought of a parent who has lost their opportunity to be a parent purely because they can't afford to play the game anymore.
Well, that's a profound statement that you're actually going to stay with people if they run out of resources and help them through the process. And you don't hear that very often. That's such an interesting point of view. And I hear you say you can't let go because they're stuck and stuff like that. But how is that sustainable in your practice when that happens, or that doesn't happen very often?
I mean, thankfully, it doesn't happen very often. Otherwise, we couldn't. Otherwise, we couldn't do it. To be perfectly honest.
Right.
But if I put a figure on it, if I put a number on it, probably currently of our clients that we're working with, probably somewhere between 25 and 30% of them are working with us without paying a single penny or dollar in fees.
Well, that is incredible. I wish that was the way it was everywhere. And, folks that are on the margins and do not have resources that would have an opportunity to move some way through the system. That's super wonderful to hear. I haven't heard that before from an attorney.
I'd say it's an ethos that I started with all the years ago that I did this. I just said, this is something we would do. It just seems that I can't have, maybe I'm just too much of a softie, but I can't have somebody walk through the door and I think, you can't afford to work with me, but I can't afford to let you leave and potentially be slaughtered in this court or never even go to this court and lose your children and the relationship with your children as a result. I can't let that happen.
That's a beautiful quality, Daniel, to be a softie. I love that. I think that's super refreshing. As you're going through the process with the parents and maybe you're doing mediation, maybe you're doing something else, how do you know when something's moving in a positive direction? What changes, what shifts do you start to see happen within the context of representing your client or in the context of mediation or anything like that?
I think we see, obviously, having done it for many years, you know what the direction of travel is in court. You know what's happening in court, and you start to be able to predict, and this is probably quite sad, really, but you start to be able to predict what the next 2 or 3 steps ahead are going to look like, be they good or bad. But you start to predict it. But in terms of the client, we always see as time goes by, sadly, mainly because of the amount of time they spend with us, we do see a change in attitude over time. And they do start to become a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more open to having a bit more sensible conversation with the other side. And that's not always possible because the other side may not be in that place and they may still be looking for the fight. Certainly my experience of proceedings over here, purely because of the time they take, is people do start to relax after a while. Maybe that's because they start to get bored, but they start to relax after a while and they start to sort of think, well, all right, I'll give a bit. If I can, we can sort of move this matter on a little bit. I'll give a bit of ground. And that's a great place to be. And, and to be able to predict that and to know that that's where you are, to be able to sit with the client and say, look, maybe we're ready now to have a conversation with the other side. Maybe we're ready to do that now.
Well, that's great. And I like that. And also, unfortunately, the predictability and knowing a couple steps ahead is a little morose at times, but it's also useful to be able to track what's happening and be realistic about how things are going to move through the system. Oh, what an interesting interview. I really appreciate Daniel's directness. I appreciate that his law firm is helping people out at times that don't even have resources, that he's even talking about that. I don't find that very often in the United States. And that's a generalization of me too. I'm sure there's a lot of people doing some really wonderful work and helping people out that don't have a lot of resources. I guess just the weight of the court system and how hard it is makes me skeptical. I guess maybe that's coming out. Maybe there are a bunch of people doing that. But anyway, thank you for coming along for the journey. I hope the show was interesting. I think it was a nice rhythm and a very different rhythm, a more succinct kind of exchanging of information. Yeah, I found it interesting in my body. Like sometimes the conversations draw out and there's more going on, but we covered a lot of different stuff and we're able to move through things differently. So I actually enjoyed the pace because it had a different rhythm. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. familydisappeared@gmail.com if you want to drop me an email with any kind of insights, questions, or ideas for different shows, anything like that too. And remember to check the show notes. Parental Alienation Anonymous, there's a link in there for the free 12-step meeting. Share, comment, like. Love to hear what you have to say. And if no one's told you yet today, I love you. I even love Daniel. I'd never met Daniel before. Usually we do like a little getting to know someone, but I was traveling and I dropped some stuff and there wasn't really a clean access point to get the podcast done. So I really appreciate his patience and yeah, what a fun thing. So I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope to see you around the neighborhood and come back for the second part of the show because it actually is super fun at the end and super interesting. We get into some other nuances and to Daniel's dreamscape of what he'd like to see happen in the process of the family court system. So, see you later.